How are you feeling?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm amazing.
Good.
Thank you for making time.
No worries.
Now, Noreen, one of the major hurdles that women get to see is basically from the business aspect. So let me just direct this question to you. Now, for women to access finances, there are issues that crop up that enable them not to be able to have that quick access. Now, you sit in a very high position. Now, my question would be, what are some of the things that can be done or are being done to level the ground for players in business?
Okay. Thank you so much. Good morning, ladies. It's a pleasure to be before you. My name is Noreen Nthiga. He just addressed me as Noreen.
Okay.
So my name is Noreen Nthiga. I head the programs at the SME Advisory Unit, which is a department which falls under the Executive Office of the President. And our work is not only advisory, but it's also facilitation and implementation of SME programs. Our mother ministry is the Ministry of Industry and Trade, but we work with all the government agencies. And thank you, back to your question. The reason why it's harder for ladies to access finance or funding, as is the case, I think just boils down to, basically for all SMEs, and the bankers here will agree with me, is the issue on informality. We did a survey recently, and we realized that SMEs are the engine drivers of our Kenya's economy. While the 98% that form the SMEs, only 80% are informal. So you see, that's a huge margin. That's a very huge margin. So even during COVID, when COVID happened, and everyone wanted to help the SMEs when it first happened, because there was a realization that a lot of households would be affected. So the first plan that the COVID committee came up with, how do we support the SMEs? But the SMEs were nowhere to be found. Sorry?
Go ahead.
So the SMEs, not many were available, or we could not trace them. And the reason why we could not trace them was because of the issue of informality. Now, we realize that in the Kenyan landscape, there is the fear, because the minute you register, the minute you give out your details, as an SME, you start seeing KRA and all her sisters, KEBS, all kinds of agencies. Even you'll see Kenya Wildlife wanting something from your business. And this has happened because as much as we're supporting the SME space, it has been fragmented. Yeah? So you don't blame the SME for being scared of formalizing, but also from a policy level, what kind of environment are we putting in place? And Mengi, allow me to just go back. Since we've just followed from what happened colonially.
Correct.
The policies in place were policies to support manufacturing and big-scale industries, not SMEs. And it's good that we've come to the realization of that. So what is happening now, government agencies are taking a seat back and going back to the drawing board and asking, what can we do different? And you can see there's a lot happening in this space. We have the startup bill, we have the MSME policy that went through. So through such policies, you're able to curate a better working environment. But that just does not stop there, because there's also the realization that we need networks. You have CAM that speaks for manufacturers. You have KEPSA that will speak to the corporates. Who speaks for the SMEs? And the women? Who speaks to those businesses, for those businesses? So also now, we've come to realize that we have unique networks. We have women in business, and that's a formidable voice, because she has that network. I'll call it she because most of the members are women. She has members that constitute her, members who know what their needs are and who can clearly articulate. And let me tell you, when you have numbers, you have a voice. You have a voice. So for these networks, what they need to do is to come together, because we have disintegrated different networks. There are those doing incubation, there are very many different ones, yeah? And they are growing of age. These networks need to come together and speak in a unified voice. Otherwise, members of parliament will go to parliament and debate on how mistresses should not get a share of your inheritance. Well, there are bigger issues.
Wow.
So I'll leave it at that. What I will say is that the discussions are ongoing. We are trying to start from scratch because, as I've said, SMEs, we are living, the regulations are the ones from the colonial times. So what we're doing is we're going back to the drawing board. What is an SME in Kenya? Even people say I'm an SME. An SME and you've not even registered your company. At what level do you fall? I went to a gentleman's factory and he told me, Noreen, I'm an SME, I need you to come and see my factory at the EPZ. And I went there. He's employed 1,500 employees. I asked him, how are you an SME?
How?
And he's enjoying SME benefits. So you see, we need classification and categorization. What is an SME? Let's start from startup. Let's go to small, let's go to medium. Where do you fall? And at startup, what does the government do for you? At startup, surely, someone who has just registered, can we give them a tax holiday? Those are the questions we're asking. And how long should that a tax holiday be? And what also regulations do we put in place? Because also the more rules you have in Kenya, the more you open the gates of corruption.
Wow.
So let us have, if at startup level, do you come under a network such as Women in Business? That confirms you're a startup. How is capacity building provided for you as a startup? As medium, what do you get as at medium level? Do you have access to finance? Yeah? Can Stanbic easily call Women in Business and find out that this person is at this threshold and these are their details? How do you work also with business regulatory services, registration services? So all this, and through collaboration, I think, and putting our efforts together, I think the policies that are about to come to place will just change the entire story.
Amazing. And I'd like to pick it up from hand, probably re-emphasize on this particular factor. Alone you cannot speak, but if you have numbers, you have a voice.